Okay, everyone. Today we have a very special speaker with us.
Well, don't make it too special.
And we're thrilled to have him with us because this is a very timely subject that I thought was critical that anybody and everybody that was in town should try to show up for this meeting. I'll also do a video of it, and it'll be sent out to all the members of the discussion group, so it'll be available for you to review. Dennis today is going to talk about the security issues that are popping up out there, cyber threats, a way to stay safe, and the truths and untruths regarding current threats. Before we get started, next week we have a meeting that you also should make sure you attend, especially if you're interested in, and I know a lot of our members have been over the years and have asked a lot of questions about it, and we have an expert now who has researched it, I think, for years and has done an excellent job in following up on this whole scanning of negatives and slides. A lot of us seniors, and I'm sure that doesn't, most of you don't qualify for that title, but in our younger days, we took a lot of slides, and we certainly took a lot of pictures where we have negatives, and many of us have kept these negatives over the years, I guess wondering what we were going to do with them and if we'd ever have a need for them. And now what you can do with your negatives and your slides is you can digitize them and really take advantage of the fact that you've kept them all these years. And Conrad Reback, right? Dr. Conrad Reback is going to review with us the best way to go about doing that and some of the quality services that are available to you out there. And it's something you can do yourself. I think it takes a lot of time and energy, but it's worth it. And you can really produce really good quality results if you do it right. So I think it's going to be a very interesting meeting. And even if you're just into trying to scan different things, I think he's also going to cover that intensely next week. Okay, so we're all set for the meeting today. Expected a pretty good crowd. We have one. And by the way, Dennis also has a business here where he offers tech service to both Apple and PCs, right? And many of us who have switched over the years from PC to Apple, it's great to have somebody in the area who can help you through that process. Okay, Dennis.
Thanks, George. I appreciate it. Can everybody hear me? Not hearing? Yeah. My voice is only so loud. So, how many here actually have a Windows-based computer or an Android telephone? A Windows computer? Yeah, Windows-based. Do you have one? An Android phone?
Windows.
Right. The reason why I'm going to mention that later because most of us all have Apples in this room because it is a Mac users group. However, there are a lot of folks do like the Galaxy products, so from Samsung and Nokia. So by doing that, I want to make sure everybody covered as far as this talk today. There's a lot going on out there, and unfortunately, how many know what cyber attacks mean? Okay. Most of you, you've heard of viruses, you've heard of spyware, you've heard of phishing threats.
Dennis?
Yes, sir.
We're not getting you through the microphone, I don't think.
There we are. Give me 1 second. Make sure we have it up and running. Is that better?
Yeah.
All right. All right. I would say there's a lot of different threats out there today. We have virus, spyware, there's phishing threats, things that, they're throwing a rod in your rod with a little bit of bait on it, hoping we get suckered into it. How many have purchased a new iPhone 6 or 6 Plus recently or are waiting to get one? A few. How many still have the 5C? 5, yes, I'm sorry. Okay, and how many have 4 or anything older? Okay. How many in this room are on the latest operating system from Apple, 10.9? How many are on Lion or Mountain Lion? Who's back on Snow Leopard?
Is Judith here?
I see one hand, okay. Well, only one thing today will address you on a specific issue. Cyber attacks are everywhere. Unfortunately, what's going on right now in the world is, in the old days, people used to worry about people copying a password, stealing a black book of phone numbers, getting into somebody's accounts from a business. There are a lot of easier ways to do it. Nowadays, it gets a little harder as far as us people who have our own accounts with usernames and passwords. We can't remember our passwords, we can't remember our usernames, and every time we go to a different website, everybody wants a specific username, a specific password, with some kind of security questions to be added to it, and it's getting harder for our own protection to keep ourselves in check with our own products, let alone worrying about what the rest of the world is doing around us. But unfortunately, we can make ourselves safe to a point. It's the other stuff that we now have to worry about, and it's going to get worse, and I'll explain. So the outline today, I'm going to go briefly into computer security, some principles to consider. Some of the stuff applies to us, some doesn't, but it should keep you aware for your Windows friends. How about putting it together? We'll talk a little bit about the Android platform and the things that plague that, which somebody sent something recently about a flashlight app, which I'll talk to you about. And how safe are you? How safe are we as Mac users, Windows users, and what we need to do to make ourselves better. We're going to talk about common web and email threats, and this is going to be the biggest one for everyone in this room here because everybody falls sucker to something sometime. I have, I'm sure everyone else has. It's to something. We're going to talk about today's current threats and then what Apple's done for us. Security issues follow technology. Well, think of it this way. Before computers, you worried about somebody robbing a bank, taking money directly out. There are easier ways to do it. Nowadays, because security's gotten tighter and technology is now here, they usually, not too many people are brazen enough to walk into a bank to steal money. They do it an easier way. They use a computer from a remote location, hacking into a bank terminal to start moving people's money around, i.e. our money somewhere. And this technology today is made up of desktop systems, our smartphones, which is a big part of our life, networks, servers, which everything's connected to. But also, we're going to talk later about our smart devices. How many have a smart TV now? Right? It's amazing. Our cars are getting more connected. I mean, Chevy's got a car now that has Wi-Fi built in. That thing's connected when the kids are in a car. You're driving to the grocery store or on a trip. So we're getting more and more connected. But with that, it's going to come a lot more problems. Security issues do affect software mainly. They can make us create more laws. Profits for businesses can dwindle because you got to spend money for protection, which is really not a good thing. And just some basic principles here, and I'm not going to go into all these different things, but I just want to let you know that there is a PDF that Jerry's going to have coming around, or he's going to send out on some of these things. Some of the stuff really doesn't get to us. I'm going to save our good stuff for the end. But I just want to talk about a few things as far as we talk about concepts. A vulnerability or an exploit and a threat. The picture I have in the right-hand corner is like a firewall or a brick wall. Do you see it there? Well, you see there's a bug coming up and over the wall. One drilled underneath the wall, came up the other side, and one found a way through the wall and came through. Well, they explain what your vulnerability is, so it's a weakness somewhere in our system. The exploit is somebody taking advantage of the weakness, and the threat is whatever the agent is coming through to us. Now, not all users, we're all users, but we're not equal to the same threats. What people get on Windows operating systems, we don't get on the Apple. What people get affected on an Android telephone doesn't affect the Apple, iPhones, or the iPads. But there's other systems out there. A lot of the big mainframe computers run on Unix and Linux and FreeBSD as backbones that run the platform. Things that don't mean much to us, but the servers we talk to in the world use these operating systems. And hackers, the biggest thing they're doing nowadays is they're going to places of mass congregation. They're trying to find out where you are. Well, where do most people hang out nowadays? eBay, Facebook, big place. Guys that like sports at ESPN all day long. There's other sharing, there's Twitter. And, then look at the big places where people shop. You have your Walmarts, you have your Amazon.coms, places where people spend a lot of time. They hack those sites, they're getting to us. Also, the biggest thing is if you have disgruntled employees. Those are the hardest things to deal with because you don't know what someone's going to do or what they start to do in your business to cause detriment later. There's no silver bullets in this. There's no one way to fix everything and say, hey, I put this firewall in, I'm safe. There's no such thing. And it's hard to comprehend because a lot of us have basic things. If you have a Windows computer, someone says, hey, I'll just put an antivirus on it or anti-spyware. Okay, that's not enough. If you're a business, maybe you need a firewall. It's a piece of hardware that actually allows things to come in and out. Well, that's not a piece of equipment you buy. Well, then maybe I need to have something for my network wireless router. Well, what's wrong with the wireless router? Well, it's got a brain in it too, and that needs protected. So as this goes on and on and on, where do we start and where do we finish? Now, luckily for us and everyone in this room, most of you have Apples. That's a plus, and it's been that way for a long time, which I'm still happy about. Let's see. The problem is we have to deal with this stuff continually. It's not going to go away, it's only going to get worse. And Apple's actually made some strides in making that better. Let's see. To me, the weakest link for everybody is humanity. We're the weakest link. Computers don't lie. Computers don't cheat. We program to do whatever. How many people know how Amazon, when you order something, what goes on at their warehouse? Do you think any folks physically walk down, oh, there's that bowling ball Jerry King ordered. Bearing ball, that's the SKU number up, same color, same size, same weight. Walk over, put it in a box, send it off to Jerry King? No. There's a computer that talks to a robot. That little sucker cruises up and down and out, uses a scanning eye, finds it, scans the SKU box, puts it in the thing, goes over, puts another box, another robot packs it, tapes it, off it goes. He gets it. Pretty soon they're trying to do that whole drone thing about flying your box right to you. They're thinking about it, I'm not kidding. So, but the thing is, there's no screw-ups with that. Now, had that been me, sometimes dyslexia kicks in, you can't say, oh, is that a Z or an M? I'm not really sure, got the wrong product. People call and say, hey, it's not what I ordered. We are a factor. Well, the same thing happens to computers. I think people are the weakest link, not the machines. So even if you've done everything on your side, we have to worry about other things. We have people in different roles. We have people here that work for Norton Utilities and McAfee, which is antivirus companies. There's how many here have antivirus on their Macs? Anybody? Okay, good. Sophos is a free one you can use. I don't recommend it, but there's other ones out there. These guys are for low-based platforms, which are us, just getting home users taken care of and some small businesses. But banking systems need a more secure system. Wall Street needs a more secure system. The Pentagon, military, needs a more secure system. Unfortunately, the interface still invokes the internet somehow, some way, through some connected network. That means, jokingly, Area 51 still has to talk to DC. DC has to talk to a remote base in Afghanistan. Somehow, some way, we're still connected, whether it goes to a satellite, through a hard cable that's linked directly. These things occur, so there's always going to be a breakdown somewhere in that system. Our electrical grid was never on the internet. Now it is. There are proven bugs that are sitting now in the U.S. electric grid, and they can look at the signature. Everything has like a little, hey, who made this bug? There's some Russian and Chinese cyber criminal malware that are sitting inside our U.S. electric grid, and we're just waiting for something to happen. Now, it isn't simple like you can just shut down his terminal, pull out the computer, and move on. These things attach themselves to certain things. Because once we're exposed, then people take advantage of our exploits. They say, well, yeah, that door opened back there. How do I get through there from here? Then people will work on it. The neatest thing nowadays is most people, when they make these bugs, it's a conglomerate of many folks. You might have one set of hackers create certain software to get into that. The second team comes in and says, well, once we're in that door, we have to go from that door to the next step we want to go to. Sometimes these bugs call forth on other bugs, especially in the Windows-based system. If you've ever seen malware on a Windows machine, it's amazing. I've been chasing one, and you'll see where Viper says, found this bug, and all of a sudden you see it running through the computer trying to get away. It's kind of funny to see it. Then it finally quarantines it, and like, oh, thank God I got it. But that doesn't always work. The problem is, when we start adding stuff to our computers, things happen. If you take your computer out of the box, brand new, just turn it on, do nothing else. Don't sign into iCloud, don't pull all your software over, just turn the thing on, get on Safari, surf the internet. The computer's moving really fast. If you open up a Pages doc, it comes up quick, no big deal. You can do some email, that thing's a lightning ship. Now you say, okay, now I gotta add my 200 gig library videos into it, I gotta add my music into it, I gotta add all my Adobe apps, I gotta add all my whatever. Now we start adding weight to the system. When a computer starts slowing down, but most of these computers can handle it, so it's not a big deal. Well, if I have to add an antivirus to the system, that means something has to run full time and check, and basically like a dog, sniffing every single person in this room, constantly saying, hey, what's going on here? And every time you do something, it says, would you like me to scan your external drive? Do you want me to scan the flash drive? I'm like, oh, please, I just have to get my email done, go away. And that slows down our progress, it slows down business. And then, at least with Apple, since we don't have that issue, it's a good thing. Windows, it slows their systems down, especially when it's updating, scanning, repairing, quarantining. It's a nightmare. Sometimes when they quarantine something, they hurt a healthy file in the system, and then therefore Windows shuts down or may not restart because the healthy file that was damaged is now quarantined and the computer won't restart, which usually means they have to reinstall, which is not a whole other nightmare. So we have to think about, okay, so what kind of security can I put in that's not really going to affect my performance all that much or intrude on my day, but also allow me to get my job done. But, you know, we've got to find a good balance between the two, and that's hard. And it's getting worse. Apple's doing a good job behind the scenes. We'll talk more about them later. But as I said before, people are the weakest link in the system. And they cover from all aspects of technology. But it's not just the technology, we have the people and the environment they're in. What environment are they working in? Are they working in a bank? Are they working in the security center of the bank? Remember, we have to hire people. So, just to throw a name out there, which you've heard in the news, Edward Snowden, right? All right. I'm not here to pick on him or say anything different, but think of it this way. We had a person who was hired to do a job, knew that he was going to be doing things that would be questionable, but it was a matter of national security. He was going to know things or have access to things and be privileged to things that none of us would ever even think of or even know about. And he signed or gave an oath or whatever not to divulge or, you know, go against our country. He did what he did, but the point is somebody else has his same job or a job like his out there. There's many of us. So we're all weak links. Some days we're in a good mood, some days we're in a bad mood. Who knows what's going to happen at work? Especially if the supervisor makes it. Even if you did a good job on your home computer, yeah, I got my antivirus in, or Apple's updated the latest stuff, I'm fine, everything's good. What about the other side of the coin? What's Comcast doing it there as an ISP, as a provider of your internet, or Summit, or CenturyLink, there's other ones out there? What about the banking system? What about the U.S. electric grid? Everything that we connect or talk to, or even just to pay our bills online. You go to FBL to pay a bill, you go to Target to pay a bill. Target's been breached. How many have Adobe software on their computers? Yeah. Well, you've all been given up with your information. They stole over 138 million different IDs from folks around the world. Adobe's a big company. Microsoft is a big company. They affect everybody. Well, including us. I'm an Apple user, but you know, if Microsoft gave up something, I have some Microsoft Office on my machine. That means they got my, you know, possibly my bank card or my name or whatever. Now, then of course they always tell us, yes, there's been a breach. The funny part is they tell us after the fact. Well, Target, you know, we've actually gone back 6 years now. We've had the whole back then. We're like, oh, great, we're finding about it today. So for 6 years, so that means we constantly have to watch our credit cards, we have to check our accounts, is anything funny going on? And then the funny thing is, at the end of the day, they all tell us, well, you better make some really tough passwords and some tough security questions, and don't pick your dog your birthday, your wife's anniversary. You better make them hard. Yes, that's true. But my take on it, I'm a little cynical going, well, why does that matter? If they got into your system, right, they used my password to get in here. They got into your main system, means they broke your passwords with your tech people, your top engineers. And once they're in that system, now they got access to my information and your information and your information. So they take the heat out of the kitchen by throwing it on us. Well, thanks for calling today. We really worry about your safety. Now, you can make that password really hard now. And good luck to you, and thanks for doing business with us. And you're like, oh, I updated my password, my security questions are good. No, they're the ones that screwed up, not us. So again, the problem with the system isn't just starts at our home or on our phones or with our TV sets. It's our Wi-Fi, it's our ISP, it's our national grid for the internet, where all our DNS servers, it's all the banks and it's all the institutions we deal with every day. And not everybody keeps their stuff up to date. I mean, how many of us here go kicking and screaming? How many of us still use Quicken 2007 on their computers? There's a few of you here. Some still use old software. Why? Because it was easy, it was nice, it functioned, it worked. Well, unfortunately, as we move forward, that stuff doesn't always get to go with us. A lot of people like to wait. Well, I'm not spending 14 grand on antivirus. I'll just wait and see what happens. That's what people do. Well, if that's an e-commerce site where you do business with and the guy's not going to put money into a system, you know, wouldn't you like to know whether or not he's protecting your data or whether or not your credit cards or your personal information is going to be given to somebody else? Well, I would be. And when we talk about as far as layers of defense are concerned, you have to have more than one. And the funny thing is, in your house, your router's your first thing. I'm going to talk later how a lot of the bugs out there now affect the wireless router. Your wireless router is more than just connecting and getting on the internet. That thing's a little traffic cop. It controls, gives each item an ID number that says, okay, everyone in this room can be on the internet at the same time. I'm going to pick and choose and control. It allows you to send email in and out. We have ports that data travels in and out of all our different platforms, whether it's Mac or Windows. Email travels out on one port number, comes in on another, things like that. We have updates that you get notifications like your iCloud comes in and out to the port. Okay. You get notifications for Wall Street Journal, like, hey, something just happened in the news. It pops on your computer or on your iPhone. Something is always traveling in and out. So your router, actually, you can have some defenses you can do with your router, and we'll talk about them later, to kind of make it a little more safer. Big companies should worry about something called a bastion host. All that means is it's a piece of a device that takes all the attacks. It's like the bouncer in a nightclub. So you got to go through me first before you get back there. And that's what this device has done. We don't need that for our homes, but this is what are needed, you know, at a lot of big companies. A firewall, for home use, not really. For business use, it's something to consider, especially if you're a law firm, doctor's office, to be HIPAA compliant. Firewall is a piece of hardware that works like a bastion host, but a smaller level that keeps stuff from coming in. But also to keep you from going out. So if the thing hiccups, you may not be going in or out of the device. Intranet is just having stuff internally, like Arthrex. They would all talk amongst each other inside their own facilities, not go through that. But again, the more layers you have, can anybody bypass one or more layers? Yes, they can. The big thing is we have to figure out what vulnerabilities do we have. What are the exploits we know about? What's going to cause our problems? And what is the likelihood of us actually getting something? Now, you've heard about some things in the news. Give you an example just to put one out there. There's one last night. I just saw Jerry King. I saw the email. It was about the flashlight bug. The flashlight bug. Okay, so everyone's like, oh, I got that flashlight app on my iPhone. Does that mean that it's malware and I'm infected? The funny part is I actually watched a few minutes of the YouTube video and they showed the flashlight app being activated on an iPhone. But then a few minutes into the thing, it's, well, there's only 10 on the Google Play Store and it affects the Google Android system. Then why are you showing a freaking iPhone? So all the iPhone people watching this little telecast think, oh my God, I got the flashlight app, but I'm infected. It doesn't affect Apple. But it's on the Google Play Store, it affects all the Android phones. And there's 10 of them out there, and I think some are free and the rest are paid. So imagine paying for an app that actually gives up all the information out of your phone to wherever it wants to go, or whatever the people program it to do. So that's a way to know what our threats are. You're all going to walk out of here wanting to put like a bomb-proof suit on, so I'm sure. The biggest thing is don't set yourself up to be a target. How many people here have their name on their wireless router where they live? Like Miller's Network, King's Network. Okay. I know we all like our names. Mine's too long, I can't put it on there. It's true. But here's the thing. Don't put your name on it. You know what your network is. Name it something silly. Like mine, every time I program on mine, it says like out to lunch, get your own, not yours, find another one. Just have some fun with it. Call it nail salon, auto parts. I don't care what you call it. Give it a name that just means something fun for you. Because in that way, it takes things out of it. There's some folks in here, they're doctors, they're lawyers, okay? There's a lot of prominent people just in this room, but also throughout Collier County. Well, I go to doctor's offices all the time, and I see like a good friend of mine, Dr. Pavanan, says Dr. Anand's Network. I'm like, we need to change that. His now says, and you don't care, it now says nail salon. Well, if you're in his office sitting down, you go, oh, there must be a nail salon nearby. I guess Dr. Anand doesn't have Wi-Fi. You would think twice about it. Would you log into a nail salon? No. But that's the idea. Now, if it was the bank next door, you might say, well, I got this little hacking tool. Let me see if I can hack into the bank while I'm at it. So don't advertise. So how many carry a firearm? How many have a concealed weapons permit? Okay. Yeah, that's what they got a permit. But if you carry a gun, guess what? Nobody knows. Why? Because it's concealed. Right? Don't ask, don't tell. That's why we don't have open carry in the state of Florida. If I walk into a place of business like a bagel shop, I got a gun on my hip, I'm ordering my bagel, and the guy wants to rob the place behind me, who's he going to shoot first? Me. Why? Because there's a gun on my hip. And then he's going to take the money and leave. Okay. But if I walk in and I'm like a computer nerd, he's like, there's work over there. But maybe I have a gun, maybe I don't. See, element of surprise. Do the same thing with your network. Don't let people know.
That's Mitch. Lately, I have a fine name on my internet, and I always have. But I've considered just concealing the name completely. What about doing that? Because I know that's an option when you set it
Yes,
up.
it's called the SSID, it's your broadcast name. You have an option on all the routers out there that you can actually, it's either to hide it or show it. So instead of it saying, Collier County Public Library on Wi-Fi, it wouldn't say anything. You'd be like, oh, I guess there's no Wi-Fi in here because it's not broadcasting the name. Now, there's equipment out there that can sniff an atmosphere and still find things that aren't broadcasting. I know it sounds silly, but that also means some people have to have connections to the network by some other means. But there are tools out there to do different things.
And if you hide the name, you just have to know it when you sign on.
Right, you can actually, because where it says, well, I don't see a wireless router available, but if it says other, you click on other, then you put in your name and your password, automatically connect because it's there. It's just not broadcasting. Not the name, but it's still broadcasting the wireless router. Windows is attacked more than Apple. Apple, and I'm going to show you later how many times we've been attacked. You're actually going to laugh. But the reason why I made that comment is the last thing that's on here. Those who claim, like, oh, I have an Apple, I ain't going to get a virus. No, there are people trying to hack us. There are people that are paying. They got awards and contests going on all the time. Here's 10 grand on the table if you can hack into the Apple Airport Extreme router. If you can bypass Apple's new bill pay system, here's $1 million. There are people paying people to do this. You can think what you want, and conspiracies are not. I'm going to show you something at the end of this whole program that's going to make you sick to your stomach. But we are trying to hack into servers from the U.S. into other people's business in other countries, and they're trying to hack into ours. Not just militarily, but business-wise. Google wants to know what Apple's doing. Samsung wants to know what Apple's doing. Here's something funny. If you notice that Samsung and HP, their equipment looks almost identical to Apple's MacBook Airs and tablets and phones. Did you look at their equipment closely? Who produces the stuff for Apple? Samsung, the screens, the bodies, a lot of the equipment comes from over there. Well, remember, designed in California, built in China. We send stuff over there constantly. They can reverse engineer things. Well, things happen for our military. We order parts all the time. We don't produce them here, we produce them over there. Somebody looks and says, oh, I wonder what this little cog actually does. And then they kind of put two and two together. Sometimes we're not smart enough to go with a different vendor. We do them all in the same house. And they go, huh, this goes to this, goes to this, goes to this. Oh, look, a MacBook Air. Okay, well, now it's a Samsung tablet. Come sue us, Apple. Well, we can't sue them overseas, so it's kind of funny. These are things you can't win, so Apple's learned to deal with it. Google's after us. I mean, did Apple just introduce their phones? I got the 6 Plus. Anybody have a Plus yet? I got this 3 days after it came out, and I'll tell you what, I like the phone, I don't like it, it's too big. But I know that really sounds stupid, it is, it's too big to hold, but it's a nice phone. I gotta get used to it. It's too big to put on my hip and walk through the door and flies off. Not a good thing. But you saw it bend, right? The first thing's out the first 24 to 48 hours about somebody actually bending it. Now, I can tell you, anyone here who is happy to get a phone, the first thing you're going to do is not go home and say, let's see if this thing breaks. You don't do, we're like, oh, look at my phone, let's show my friends. That's what we do. Well, who did that? Well, they're looking into it. Maybe it was Google. Maybe it was Microsoft. Maybe it was Nokia. Nokia's pissed at Apple because iPhone took Nokia, who's one of the largest players in the cell phone business for many years. It's the second or the first leading export for Finland. We took their revenue away because, well, we made a phone that's more popular and better. Well, but now they better to say, well, the phone's bendy, no one's going to buy it. I actually talked to clients and said, well, I'm not buying it, it's too bendy. I said, they take 110 pounds of force to bend the sucker. I said, watch the Consumer Reports follow up. No, it's too bendy. They wouldn't buy what this guy did on the video, not what Consumer Reports said later. The Samsung Galaxy breaks, the HTC breaks, all these other phones break. They all break at different pounds of pressure. But I also tell people, they're not made to be in your back pocket and sit down, right? Because they're going to bend or break. I'm 200 pounds. I sit the wrong way against something that's sharp or like an edge of a table, I'm going to bend that phone. So, things to consider, but people are funny. As this PDF comes out to you, you can read through some of the slides I had up front, but basically, consider your security goals. What is your goal? Do you want to have antivirus? Not have antivirus. Is your router locked down? Is it broadcasting or not broadcasting? Things like that. Multi-layer protections, having more than one thing if you want to. Some people turn a firewall on their computer, and I'll talk about that later, is an extra piece of protection. Minimizing interference of functionality. It's like I said, if I put 5 antiviruses on my computer, how much more is it going to slow me down? You got to weigh the risk. Well, right now, Apple's got pretty much a big goose egg for as threats are concerned, realistically. So, do you want to buy antivirus? But the problem is, even today, I might say we don't need antivirus. Tomorrow, my next meeting with you guys might be, hey, everybody needs to put that Sophos on their system. That day's coming. It's just not here yet. I briefly mentioned about that flashlight affecting the Android. Well, Android is becoming Windows. It's the way the system is written, there's no checks and balances. Apple's kind of unique. Developers got mad at Apple because Apple says, hey, we want you to make apps for our app store for the iPhone, the iPad, and the Mac. Okay. Not only that, for $100, we're going to give you the tools. It gives you all the things you need to do to make an app work in our system and then sell it, and you and I make money together. It's not a bad deal, is it? Not only do they do that, if I make an app on Apple and I submit it, they check it. They check my homework. If I did a good job on my app, then my app goes to the store and it's ready to be sold. If I make mistakes on it, they kick it back to me and say, hey, you guys need to update a few things in your code. Okay. Showed up good on your iPhone, did do so on the iPad. I make a couple edits, boom, off it goes. I get the blessing, boom, it shows up in the store. That's kind of cool. Apple gives you checks and balances. That's why you do business. Apple has a rule of thumb. When they make a product, it has to work. They keep people out of the engine room. That's why Flash doesn't work on the iPhone or the iPad. When it runs down the engine room. 99% of all crashes related to the internet, whether it's Mac or Windows surfing, is due to a Flash-based issue. Because it mucks up the browser. Because it's operating down at the browser level in the underpinnings of the system. And it freezes and locks up. And that's why Steve Jobs said no. Because if people are surfing in Safari on their iPhone at a Flash-based site and it locks up, are they going to blame Adobe? No, they're going to blame Apple. Say, this damn phone doesn't work, internet sucks. First thing they do is blame Apple. They're not blaming Adobe. Even though I know it's an Adobe issue, I've educated you today, you know it's an Adobe issue, but they're blaming Apple. So Steve Jobs said, the stuff runs above the engine room. So that means our phone's always going to work, our computer's always going to work, for the most part, and everything else runs above it. And we'll talk more about their technology that allows that to happen, so their stuff just works. These guys, not so much. Think of it like dominoes. You smack one thing here on the Windows operating system, and it runs all the way over there and knocks everything else down at the same time. That's why Windows falls apart. It hasn't been changed, hasn't been changed for years, and it still has the same issues. Well, Android's the same way. Any of us in this room can make an app for Android. And we can put it out there. There's no checks, no balances. We may shut down every single Android phone on the planet with our app. Could happen. Okay, well, so to me, and the problem with Android too is it's not just one operating system. There's one version. Like Apple, we're all on now iOS 8. Well, some of the new phones coming out are running on 1.3, 2.0, 3.1, 3.6. Why so many different versions? Well, HP's got their version of Android, Google's got their version, and Google's the owner of it. Samsung uses a different version. Why? I don't know. But different operating systems will yield different results with different apps, and it's open. I mean, here we go. The first worm discovered, there's a worm in the system, it's the Android, it's called the Sam Sapo, which means Sam the Toad, whatever that meant. And for its ransomware, Imagine it locks your phone up and asks you to say, hey, you want to unlock this phone? Send me some money. That would suck on a Monday morning, right? You're trying to go to work. So, and of course, Google plans to periodically rescan all their installed apps, see if there's anything bad in them. But, you know, they've already got something that just made the news the other day in the flashlight app. Apparently, they missed that one. So, but most malware originates outside of Google Play. If you download something from iTunes or the Mac App Store, it's coming from Apple. It should be pretty much washed, pure, clean, ready to go for your use. If you go to Amazon and buy a song, right, we don't know where it came from, what was attached to it. Did it come from Amazon store, or did Amazon party with a different company who added something to that software that when you got that song and played it, you got something else in your system and just didn't know it. So a lot of stuff occurs usually outside those stores. In Google Play and other carriers is where these bugs are coming from. So we asked that question, how safe are you? How many actually feel safe in this room with their devices from Apple, with the iPhone, the iPad? Okay, you can put your hand up. It's actually a safe thing. We actually have good stuff. You know, Windows people hate when people are happy. I mean, because, you know, we rarely have any issues. I mean, we all have our stuff day to day, but honestly, as an operating system alone, between the phones and the computers, I've been very happy with that. Now, I'll get a little history lesson. We're going to kick out of this. I don't expect you to read this or see it because I can't see it either, but I can tell you all I care about was in this small little green circle in the corner. History of Mac malware. It appeared in the 1990s. This is some of the bugs that first came out. Word was out there for Apple, okay, and it's called a macro virus. It affected some spreadsheets and some Word documents. Okay. Well, as we go through all the years, we went from the 90s to 2004, late 04, as we come all the way up to September 2014 with the iWorm, which I'll talk about later. Down below, you can't see the number, but it says total malware affecting the Mac operating system from 1990 till now, 49. That's it, 49. Less than 50. That's all the bugs we've had over all these years. We've had an old operating system, Apple's been around a long time, and not very well plagued. Now, people attribute to that, like, oh, not everybody has an Apple. Well, I don't know. The world, there's a lot of iPhones and iPads out there on this planet, but Macs are falling right behind them. So I think we're doing pretty good. I don't even care if we get 100. I don't even care if we get one real virus. One, that's great. Like you said, the numbers I'll show you later for the Windows. It'll make you sick. The biggest thing you guys should look out for are these things. Common web page attacks. Here's one, it's an FBI warning. It caught you for child pornography. How many have seen some kind of something like this on your screen? Don't be afraid. I'm not accusing you of choosing to look at child porn. What happens is you open up your web browser, you search for something. You might be searching lenses for a Canon camera. All of a sudden, a page pops up and you see this. And people go, what the hell is that? What do you mean my computer's locked? Well, it looks legit. I'm familiar with Office Depot, CVS, and Walmart, Walgreens. FBI seems pretty legit. And if you look at it, anything you click on that page goes to a legit website. Well, basically it says you're being accused of child pornography and your browser's been locked down. It hijacks the browser. And sometimes just means you can't get off that page. You're just stuck in that page. And that'll affect Safari or Firefox. So the funny part is, all you have to do is quit, restart the computer, or empty a couple caches, that problem goes away. It's usually pretty simple. Windows, not so much. But what people do is they freak out and they go, oh, $300, I'm paying the fine. Well, then send the money off. That thing's still on your computer screen. They don't tell you how to unlock it, and you lost $300. Who here can get out of child pornography charges for $300? Tell you what, a lot of people on this planet going, hey, here's my money. It's sad, but that's, you have to think about what they're telling you. Here's a funny one, Crypto Locker. This sucker's mean for Windows. This shows up on your screen, just go home. It's not even worth dealing with it. It will lock all your personal files on a computer, Word docs, spreadsheets, presentations. It encrypts it with a code where you can't open anything up. You click on a picture, your wedding picture, it's just gobbledygook. There's no picture. So what they do is, there are cases reported that people paid the money. There's another screen you click on behind us, but you would go to Walgreens or Western Union, send off the money. They'll send you a code, and if you get to it in time, you can get your data back, but just to reset the turkey timer and have it go off one more time on you. It's really bad. This does not affect Apple except in one instance. How many run Windows on Mac? Okay, I do too. I use Parallels. Fusion's another option out there. There's a couple others, VirtualBox. But When you first set it up or install the software, it says you just want to share your documents folder between both platforms. That way, if you do something on Word, on Windows, it actually puts it in the Mac OS docs, and then you get to it without having to drag and drop between screens. Most of it as a default setting to say, yeah, just make it simple. Well, if you have Windows open, and this happens on the Internet Explorer browser, well, that documents folder is also tied to the documents folder on the Apple side, because that's the actual folder. Because it has permission to talk to it, the CryptoLocker will lock down the Apple files as well on your documents folder, just so you know that. Well, then if your music is allowed to that, your pictures or any other folder you give privileges to Windows will be locked down as well. And you can't get out of that because it's actually, you gave it permission because it's actually, you gave it permission. That's the reason why.
Can't you simply use a super duper on starting your backup drive?
Yes.
And erase the original drive?
Yes, you can do that. Oh, no, it's fixable if you have a backup. What I'm trying to say is, in the meantime, you can be affected. But if you have Time Machine, or if you have Super Duper or any other kind of backup, you can restore those files pretty easy, and you're back in business. And I've done that for a few businesses in town. I've had 2 law firms and a doctor's office get affected with this, and got them out of it, thank God. But things do happen. You'll see other ones, they're really legit looking websites. I mean, they have Department of Justice. As you talk, the freaking microphone's gonna blink, your camera turns on your screen. So it makes it like, oh God, they got me. I can't run. They're looking at me. Better run over to Walgreens real quick and pay that $300. So this is it. But people fall for this stuff. And then people, even if you're skeptical, say, nah, I don't know about that. Let me click on this link right here. If I click on Walmart, it goes to Walmart's page system. If I click on something that says, hey, Department of Justice, it goes to their website. So you go, oh, it must be real. These guys are good. They're hoping you bite. This one's common. It's a it's more generic looking, but it says basically you've been busted. It's the same article, I think 210, the criminal code about pornography. So just pay a fine and click a couple links. But there's not much to it, but some people fall for this. I have young folks that fall for this stuff, so it's not an old person thing. Here's another one. This is with the prison system. It's the NSA's crime unit. So, and a lot of these are legit titles. These are legit seals. They're legit logos. And when they show up, people go, oh, I'm busted. There's a member in his club who's a member of a political party. I won't say which one, because it doesn't matter. But he had something pop up like this on his computer, freaked out, called me, goes, I got my wife running down the store to pay this thing. I'm like, no, stop her, call her, cancel it. Why? It's false. Well, I can't get it off my screen. I said, I'll come down and get it. I went to his house, took it off the screen, done deal. And I explained to him when I showed him when you click on these links what happens. Now, the funny thing is with Apple, when you click on some of these links, that they go to get you out of some things or to pay if they're wherever they want you to go, it goes to a site that's usually already been determined as a fraudulent site. And you'll see a 404 server not found error, which meant they've already been caught and pulled off the internet. But if they catch you early enough, they're taking some money from you. Now, I'll explain to you about some of the scams, especially for software support. How many have ever called tech support for Adobe, Quicken, QuickBooks, Microsoft? Okay. If you ever called tech support, the funny thing is, I have a client who just bought brand new QuickBooks from Mac. He called Intuit. Well, Intuit, you think in-house, they'd say, let me send you over to our tech department. They don't now. They send you over to an India company that basically today I work for Microsoft. Today I work for Intuit, and today I work for Apple. They put these little helmets on their heads, and then when they talk to you on the phone, they sound like they are from Intuit. All the inclinations, they go, well, tell me your serial number, your software, blah, blah, blah. What'd you purchase? Okay, great, now we're here to help you. But we have to charge you up front, we need to take a credit card from you, so give me some money. You go, okay, well, fix my problem. I can't reconcile my checkbook. Okay, great. $400 later, either they fixed it or they didn't. They're calling me going, well, I called this guy, they mucked up my computer, I don't know what the hell went on, he got into it, I don't know what happened. Oh, here we go. They are not the original folks. They are not Microsoft logging in. They are not Intuit. They're not Adobe logging in. These are another legit company that partnered with, but we don't know, they've never really been checked out. So use your discretion. If people are asking you for money up front, stop, think about it, call somebody. Call me, call George, call Jerry, call anyone else in this club, say, what do you guys think of this? Before you pay, call somebody. Because too many people want to take your money quickly. Here's another one. These things pop up on your screen. Literally, you just click off them and they go away on the Apple. This one pops up all the time for Windows. It's an Internet Explorer browser. Your computer may be infected. The funny part is people don't even know. And instead of saying Intel inside, it says evil inside, because there's evil. The Department of Homeland Security, the National Security Team also look at, there's different types. You have your garden variety cheap viruses and spyware stuff that bothers kind of us. Then you have the mercenary stuff that's more into businesses, Wall Street, that kind of stuff. Then the nation states, the threat level 3 stuff that goes into us trying to get into China's military and government systems that are trying to get into ours. So, and believe me, there are people that are paid who have jobs to do this daily, to break into everybody else's stuff. So this isn't kids just hacking and having fun. This is people being paid to do this. Common email attacks. These are ones all come out of my email, just so you know.
Before you go on to the next topic, when those screens pop up, do you have to call an expert to get rid of them?
No.
Or do
Yeah.
you just click on
Just
the X?
Click on the X and have it go away. Now, if it won't go away, call somebody. Sometimes they're made to stick in the browser, and you can go up to like Safari or Firefox and empty your cache. Quit the program, reopen it, it should disappear. If not, call somebody. They're usually an easy fix. That's an over-the-phone fix. There's no charge for this. These are some emails I cut them, made them short, but basically I got one from FedEx that says, your parcel arrives September 4th. The courier is unable to deliver to you. Click here to get the shipment label from FedEx. Well, I do a FedEx daily, so it could be legit. It's not. One from UPS, the United States Postal Service.com. That's funny. It looks just like it. Next day, Air Saver's up there. So you think, well, and all of us are getting things. See, they're phishing. Maybe you bought that new iPhone and you're waiting for it. Maybe you bought a new shirt from Amazon and you're waiting for it. They're just in a Easy Pass. Well, guess what? It's Sun Pass in Florida, not Easy Pass. Easy Pass is somewhere else. But people see that and go, oh, crap, I forgot to pay my Easy Pass. They click on invoice and they pay it, not going, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't Sun Pass? What was that? So this are the things that they're hoping to catch you off guard. Before you click and pay, think. If you're not sure, walk away. This one was good. I got a big invoice for LexisNexis. I don't know what the hell they are. But it's a full invoice. They give me a zip file down here. You click on that little sucker, it takes you to a bad, nasty place. If Windows, it would affect it. Apple, it doesn't. It tells me I owe $3,700. But if you look at all this stuff, it tells me, but the funny part was it went to my son, so I know, and then it went to some other things. Well, the funny part is because I own my own domain, mvpstudios.net, I only have like 10 email addresses set up for it. But if you send something like it says butthead at mvpstudios.net, it still comes to me because I'm the owner of the company. I still get all the junk email. So if I never looked at the email and I saw this and clicked on something, I get myself in trouble. But I look and say, who's it addressed to? Butthead, I don't have an email account named that. So therefore, it says junk. My son's his name's up there, but the other ones are not legit. So look and see who they addressed it to. Sometimes you have to click and see where it came from. You can just delete these things in a heartbeat. You don't have to think about it. There's other ones.
Son, butthead?
Yeah, well, no. That's what my wife calls me at this point. The kids they rank higher than I do. I'm actually below the dog. AT&T. I mean, I got this literally after I ordered the phone because I ordered it through AT&T, and they sent me a thing here about, well, we noticed that the billing information recently changed. Well, it did, but they just updated something on my account at the AT&T store. So when you look at this, it looks legit. It's not, but they sent these out during the phones coming out to people. Verizon people got them. Whoever else is carrying out those products got these, hoping that somebody would order the phone and click on something and steal some money. Citibank. Look at the logo, it's a little skewed, but people think, oh, but if you click on that logo, it takes you to actual Citibank, so it looks legit. What they want you to do normally is click on a certain link where it says click here, whatever, that's what they want you to follow. That takes you everywhere else. You may even see an 800 number on there that's legit, but most of the time I tell you, if you see a phone number on an email and they're trying to extort or trying to get some money or you pay something, don't call the number on the screen, because if you do, they're going to be like, thank you for calling Citibank, how can I help you? And you're like, yeah, I got this in my email. Like, great, well, I can help you today. And then you pay this thing. You go, okay, I didn't know I had to do that. Well, guess what? If you're worried about it, or you got a MasterCard or Visa, take it out of your pocket, flip it over. There's an 800 number on the back of the card. Call that number and say, do I owe you something? Is there a problem? They'll say, no, sir. You can disregard that email. Don't be afraid to do that.
Dennis,
Yes.
Vicki Calber. I've gotten a couple of phishing, like from my bank or Citibank or something like that. And anything that looks suspicious. All of these establishments have emails where you can report phishing
Yes.
emails. Is that worthwhile doing? Is it just a waste of time?
It's a waste of time. Everybody
That's
wants
what
it
I
to feel
figured.
good. You know, it's like when Windows crashes as well. We know Windows crashes. Like to send a report to Microsoft. Microsoft said it does this a billion times a second around the world. We don't care. But they probably figured it's user error anyway. They're not going to call you back. No, some of that, I'm sure some companies legit like to know that, hey, we're starting to see an increase and maybe we'll notify customers. And it has happened where Fed said, hey, recently you got something from a few folks. It wasn't us. Look for this, this, and this, and or call our number, which I like. I mean, you'll do see that. You got one down here for like Green and Winwick attorneys at law says, I had a failure to notice to appear. I did not have it appear anywhere. So if you click on a link, you get yourself into trouble. Usually you have to pay. Why would you have to pay to see a return? It's usually after you lose it, whatever, however that works. There are viruses, there's spyware, there's spam, there's Trojan horses. Those are things we'll talk about. That's one of the few things that will affect an Apple is a Trojan horse. We'll talk more about that. Java. It's a mixed bag. People say, do I turn it on? Do I turn it off? You have Java and you have JavaScript. Java is it's like an operating system like Apple and Microsoft. It's an operating system that runs on the web. It runs over almost 4 billion devices in the world have some type of Java app running in it that helps it function. ATMs have Java in it. You know, our calculators may have Java in it. It just you just don't know it. JavaScript are commands. So two separate things. So don't be confused with that. I leave Java on because some of the websites you go to, you're not going to see anything or get to a desired effect from the people who have the web page up if you turn Java off. So I just leave it on. If you have Windows computer, it's up to you. But I'll talk more later that if there's an update for Java, do it through Java. If there's an update through Adobe, we do it through Adobe. And actually, Adobe's done better with their updates. Adobe's another one. They're the biggest ones right now because we all have Adobe Reader, we all have Adobe Flash, Adobe Air, and we also have some have the digital ebook reader, which has had issues lately too.
Do you then go to the Java site and upgrade, or
Well, here's how you.
if it says click here for the update?
On Microsoft Windows, down in the corner in the system tray, if it has an orange icon that pops up Java, that's legit because it's inside the computer. If it's just a random screen pop up somewhere that says Java needs to be updated, I'd be leery about that because that's not where it's supposed to pop up. On Apple, it's toss up whether Apple fixes the Java or distributes it through the software update. Sometimes you have to go to Java itself to do an update. I think Apple and Java are working together again. So all those updates will come through the Apple software update, not through Java itself. Or Oracle. Or Oracle. Well, that's the owner of Java. Thank you, Jerry. Oracle. Adobe is a little different. Adobe, if you ever look down at it on the dock and you see a little update, it's like 2 yellow arrows spinning for Adobe Fountain saying there's an update for Reader. That's okay because it's coming from the operating system internally from Adobe. So it's okay to update that. Windows, don't. Go to the website and download the new copy. So if you have a Windows-based machine, you should do that. The Heartbleed bug, I just stuck up there because it was a threat, but so far, some things have been fixed, some things haven't, but really, it's not affecting Apple at this time. I mentioned earlier about wireless routers and some different things, well, because we're all connected now. Well, I call it now the Internet of Infected Things, because everything we have today talks to the world. Pretty soon we're going to have an Apple Watch. Well, it's going to talk to the world, it's going to talk to my phone, it's connected somehow, right? How many of us have Bluetooth devices all throughout our house? We've got wireless speakers, we've got wireless TVs, we got wireless routers, we got gaming consoles, everything we have now. Nobody wants to see wires, it's all wireless. Well, guess what? If it's wireless, it can be hacked, it can be gotten into, it can be controlled. People go, well, I just put in a home automation system, check this out. I grab my iPhone and hit a button, whoop, the mood lighting changes, I can bring down my hurricane blinds, I can turn on my Sonos system in some of these houses. Yeah, you can do a lot with your phone, or your iPad, or your Android, it's great. But home automation is another thing that gets infected. We don't even think about that because we're only thinking computers is all we think. There's other stuff that people are going to get us on. Because oftentimes when you program these things, you have to have a username and you have to have a password, some kind of security setup, and sometimes it'll take you back to the company where they have information on file, and if you get access to it, they got access to your data. So that's what we have to worry about. Network attached storage drives. So if you have like a little hard drive attached to your wireless router where your time machine backs up to or something, or you have the storage up there, that's on the wireless network, can be got into. Next generation gaming consoles, I mean, none of us I'm sure are big gamers in here, but you've heard of Xbox and PlayStation the kids use. Well, they all connect to each other all over the planet, and those things are really networked together like you wouldn't believe, and they have access to your own home Wi-Fi system. Smart TVs, digital recorders, they all have access to the internet and can give up your information. You know, they call it the red button bot in your living room. A little robot in your smart TV that can give you up. They talk about, here example, Samsung down below there, your remote can be taken over from Samsung. So you got a Samsung product, you have to figure out sometimes there's a firmware update you can do to these things or talk to the manufacturer. Philips TV, they replace images or video on your screen without you knowing. What kind of picture is going to show? Hopefully nothing bad, right? Especially when you have people over. If you have, anybody here have a Tesla? A nice little fancy car there? You do? Sweet! All right, well, I want to go for a ride with you. But anyway, the iPhone app that's there is vulnerable to brute force, which means they actually can control your car through your app and do different things. That kind of sucks, right? So these are things that go on. I mean, they're going to fix it, but these are things that there's always potential for something to be affected. I mean, LG, I mean, they mess with URLs and private videos right through the TV set, because now a lot of people can access the web through the TV. How many have a smart refrigerator? Some refrigerators have TVs in them. There you go, smart refrigerators. Imagine your refrigerator giving you up. I mean, could you imagine? So much for a late night snack, let me tell you. Sort of thing I can drive with. No, but that's just it. And we don't think about it. We only think about our computers, but we have a lot of other stuff that's being networked every single day. And the different things out there, I mean, we have, the broadband routers. You can go, I'm sure you've gone to the Best Buy and Office Depot, you've seen Cisco and Linksys and Netgear and Belkin and Apple's Extreme. There's many different brands of wireless routers out there. A lot of them can be infected by a lot of different bugs out there on the network. So a lot of people forget once they install the router, they forget that I need to update this thing at some point in time. Every now and then log into the administration side of your router and say, are there any updates? Apple does a job and says, hey, there's an update for your Airport Extreme or Express, go ahead and apply that. But the other ones, you actually physically have to do that. So if you use anybody else's brand, keep the browser updated. Some try to change your DNS. So instead of going to home at Comcast or CenturyLink to get you on the internet, they take you somewhere else. It usually affects more Windows people than Mac, but it can happen. Changes where they point your browser to. So every time you say, I'm going to apple.com, it takes me to versionkitty.com, not where I want to be. Why? I type this and I get that. So those things happen. There's so many different things. Search engine redirection, I just mentioned, said, how many use free email in here? How many have AOL, Yahoo, Gmail? Oh, man. It sucks, because actually more and more of us are going to be using it, because a lot of folks finding that if you have an internet provider that changes hands or names, it's better to have something more universal than going from Sprint to Embark to CenturyLink to something else, right? Or if you're sent Comcast going to Summit per se, and Summit doesn't have email services, so they force you to get a Yahoo, an AOL, or a Gmail account. And that's fine, but remember, they get hacked a lot. Why? Because that's where everybody hangs out. That's where all our stuff is. So it gets worse as we go.
So what is the best email account?
Honestly, your own. So if you just, I mean, some people say, well, what's that mean? What you could do is, let's say you want to own Tesla.com. Say that's what you want. She buys Tesla.com, and she can, what's your first name? Beverly. Beverly at Tesla.com. Well, that's her email address. She doesn't have to have a website up. She owns a domain name. But she can pay for domain hosting, which means she might say one for herself, her husband, her kids, her friends, and she can put them all on that list. Then she's got more protection because it's going through a mainframe hosting system. It's not going through a free system. And you have more control of it. Plus, you're a paying customer, you actually get better service if there's issues. When things are free, free is as free does, so you have to remember that. And I tell people, I said, you know, if AOL tomorrow says, you know what, we've had a good run, we've been here since the start, we're done, we're shut down. Thank y'all, have a nice life. You go, where's all my stuff? 20-some years of my stuff in AOL, what do I do? Most people can't pull it out or don't think about it or take it seriously or don't even know how to get their contacts out to go somewhere else. And that can happen. So you just never know what's going to happen with free things. I mentioned earlier about disabling your access to the wireless router. As Mitch mentioned, turn off that SSID broadcast if you want.
There's no sound coming out of your speakers.
There's none?
You're not
You're
holding
close to your
it.
mouth, maybe that's the issue.
You
Oh,
got
hang on, wait a minute. May have turned.
No.
No, it's on.
You just have to hold it up.
You've been hacked. No, actually, I turned it off. Is this better? Oh, it is. I'm sorry, now you can hear me. Okay, good night, everybody, thanks for coming. All right, question back there.
Missy Ryan, what is the process? Is it complicated to set up Beverly at Tesla.com?
No, actually, you can go to like GoDaddy.com or Network Solutions, and you buy a domain name. Oftentimes, it's minimal. I mean, somebody looked at one the other day, it's like $17 to get a domain name. And then hosting may cost you more, but if it's $300 for a couple of years, it's worth it. You have that. That's yours. No one else is going to touch it, and you can police things. They got anti-spam stuff on their filters that actually get less to your box. If you have 24-hour support with them, you actually get to talk to a real person and not, have to email and hope to chat with somebody. I mean, that's what I do. Everything goes through mdpstudios.net. I do have a Comcast address, which I've had just to pay bills. The Apple account, I still have an old .Mac, mobile media, or iCloud, they call it now. And that one works pretty good, because I don't think Apple's going anywhere anytime soon, so that's actually okay. But not everybody wants to change what they have, so I mean, people are creatures of habit.
So if you do that, which I've done, but I don't use mine very heavily yet, what's the downfall in having my Yahoo and my several Google emails going into their server and saying, hey, feed right into this, my
There's
own
no
domain?
downfall. A lot of folks do that. A lot of folks forward from one account to another. Especially I have clients coming in now from the Northeast, coming into Pelican Bay where they live, now going to be Summit. They've had Comcast up there, they've had Comcast down here. What are they going to do? Well, now they have a Gmail account. They can send them a receipt, it gets to be an issue. So some are going to forward from their Comcast to Gmail while they're here, and when they go back, they can switch it back over up north. I mean, there's things you can do. You always have options.
But then what happens if Google is hacked? Are they hacking into my stuff that's being fed down?
No, it's not happening that way. It's just they're just messing with the emails. The emails what gets affected. It's not good because remember, you have another level of basically protection coming through Network Solutions or through GoDaddy. Whoever's hosting you has a whole other set as well. There's a company out there called AppRiver. They do filtering, and they're a good company if you want to even have your stuff go from your Gmail, run through AppRiver, and come back to Gmail where they filter out the spam, the garbage, and the crap. That actually does a pretty good job. But again, you got to spend money for a little bit of protection. It's up to you if you want to do it or not. For most home users, it's not a reasonable thing to do. But if you're a business, it's something to consider. Give you an example. Vin DiPasquale is a friend of mine. He owns a Dock and Riverwalk restaurants, and I help him with their stuff. He's got a lot of stuff coming in through iCloud. He doesn't know. He puts his email address everywhere. He's got a bunch of things coming in. Well, the filters we had in place weren't enough. So I filtered him now through AppRiver. It basically goes up, cleans out all the garbage, and now he just gets normal things, and he doesn't see any spam whatsoever, which is kind of nice. I mean, so there are solutions out there for it. Current threats. We have no major issues like Windows folks. That's a good thing. Okay. You heard it recently about the iWorm web, the backdoor iWorm thing?
Yeah.
Think of it this way. Most of these announcements are coming from Dr. Web, which is a Russian-based company. Okay. It's going to sound silly. Most people in the United States tend to follow the rules. We're kind of more of a law-abiding country. Other folks, not so much. If Jerry buys a record, I'm not going to walk up and steal it and copy it. I'm just going to go buy my own copy. Well, these guys, a lot of other countries, people steal a lot of things. That's why the digital rights management come in to iTunes, a lot of things where you buy something, you can't just copy it and give it to somebody else because it doesn't belong to you. And it's built into their code that they know belongs to somebody else and it won't play or work. Adobe's that way. Apple set up a new system years ago with the iTunes Store and the App Store for the Mac products that everything that runs through there is safe and it's legit. How many know what a torrent is or a file sharing sites? Okay, a few out there. Basically, how many say, I love to have the Adobe CS6 suite, but I'm not paying $1,500. But if I log into piratebay.com, I can get the whole suite. Photoshop, Illustrator, Dreamweaver, Flash, whatever. You can download it all for free. That's pretty cool. Remember, free is as free does. If you get that program and you get something else with it. This is called a Trojan horse, which means, yeah, sure, you can have this. I put it in my computer. The computer asks me, do you know where this came from? You kind of go, yeah, actually I do, but I'm not going to tell you. and then put your password in and install it. Now it's in your computer. Yes, you have Adobe Photoshop. Yes. Yes, you have, and you got the serial number, you pirated one, so now Adobe doesn't call you and say, you didn't pay for that. They won't know. I installed it. Well, now it's in my machine. All of a sudden, my computer acts goofy, or it starts exhibiting things, and then Dr. Webb says, yes, there's a virus. It got no, sir, it's not a virus. It's a Trojan horse. It came from me downloading something from Adobe. Most of it does come from Adobe. A lot of countries don't pay for the movies we have. They get them much later after we watch them. So people pirate the movies, send them overseas, and they try to sell them. Well, instead of us waiting for it, we try to get it back through one of these sharing websites. And anytime you put music in here, you put ebooks in here, you put software in here, or music or anything from anywhere else that we didn't pay for, you're going to get something. Sometimes the files are 100% clean, most of them are all infected. A lot of times they don't really affect the Apple, but they will affect Windows like you wouldn't believe. So really, if anything, don't do illegal downloads. Keep it legit. I'm sure everyone here is okay. It's kind of silly preaching you folks that, but a lot of folks have grandkids and kids that these things, they just go to places, well, I just went to LimeWire and downloaded this. Like, no, stop.
When you say don't do illegal downloads, the trigger is what, free?
Well, here's the
How
other
do
thing.
they know that?
Here's the other thing too. It's free, which means you didn't pay for it, but some of these places want you to pay a little bit of money for access to the site to pay for the bandwidth. Two things happen. If you use FrostWire, what FrostWire does is it turns you into what they call an ultra peer. You become part of the network your computer does. So as you log in to get this download of free Adobe, as it's downloading into my machine, okay, it uses me as a resource that now starts sending whatever I got so far out to other people in the world. So I become part of this master mainframe computer in the whole world. It's pretty scary, which means while doing that, they can also come through and root directories out.
This particular one was one where the people who, these 17,000 who installed it, chose intentionally to not use Gatekeeper, which is the Apple security thing that says, this software came from us or came from somebody that we know. They said, no, I want that third option, which I will take software from anybody. So these 17,000 that got infected intentionally downloaded stuff that they knew would not pass the security barriers.
That means you willfully installed the software. Okay, remember that. So if you know where it came from, it's not a big deal. If you're not really sure where it came from, then I think twice about it, because it's going to be worse. Hey, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. There's no major campaigns affecting us right now, which is nice. Windows, whole different story. There's been a few that, for certain specific things on the Apple system, but they've only been directed for certain things up there, bizarre things. They've had some things in Australia and New Zealand with the iPads and iPhones, but really didn't amount to a whole lot, and I think that's been resolved. I'm not sure where they were downloading the stuff from. The Heartbleed, for most point, really was not a bug. It was a coding system that got exploited. Never a door into something that was open and should have been closed. Later, they fixed it in most places, but usually this affects big companies and big servers. For most of everything else, we've been pretty much locked down. That's not really worried about anything here. I already mentioned all those things, so it just talks about what gets infected. How many have security cameras in their house? How many access a webcam looking through their iPad or iPhone for their home or whatever? Not too many. Good. Remember, Google is watching everything we do. Google's a search engine out there, but they're becoming a lot more than that. They are watching us. They're recording us. Okay. Facebook is the same thing. How many use Facebook? Okay. Facebook also creates shadow profiles of people that are members and those that aren't members. What a shadow profile means is if I lie and say, I don't want to give too much information about me, just say, hey, I'm 46, I'm male, I'm United States, I don't even put a picture up. I keep it minimal as I can just to get my free account. A lot of folks, they put their whole life story on Facebook. Well, one thing about Facebook, it works like how many Star Trek geeks in here? Anybody like Star Trek? Okay. How many have heard of the Borg? Okay. What it is basically, is one person learns something, right now Jerry sees what I'm saying and recording what I'm saying, everyone else here, if you weren't in this room, instantly know what I'm talking about. You all pick up the same thing at the same time. Because whatever he gets, it's all one collective. His brain is your brain is his brain. We all learn at the same time. Facebook does that. As soon as someone gets added to the grid, hey, look, today Dennis Digiacomo is a member. Huh, he must be married to Tracy. They were born in Pittsburgh. Their son is Gio and Gian. They lived in Texas. Now they're enabled. Computer guys, CRNA. Okay, members of the Mud Group. Then there's Jerry King, George Rubin, Vic Delbert. And it's just boom, 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 boom. All of a sudden, all these things just pop up behind your system. And after a while, once you're a member, you get these little notifications from Facebook. Hey, do you know this guy? Yeah, that's from high school. How the hell did you know that? You know, or first job. Where did that girl come from? Wow, how did they find me? Facebook's doing this behind the scenes, pushing stuff out. They're generating more stuff because if I don't put nothing in there about me, but Jerry King goes, no, Dennis, lives and works in Naples. He's an Apple computer guy. They're making notes behind the scenes. So that's how people can track and find people when they look for things.
Dennis, Lois.
Hello.
I keep getting notifications from Facebook and Google saying you have 2 or 3 notifications. You open them up, and they're like for Cialis.
Yeah, well, and they're allowed to do it. It's advertised. Remember, free, so they're going to bother you. I tend to just avoid all that stuff and delete them. Again, I call that junk mail.
Okay.
It's a pain because you think they should be legit. Now, if they're from people you'll get things like, hey, so-and-so posted something new today. It's like, oh, great, what do you have for breakfast? This is the kind of stuff that are out there. It's true, it's amazing. I have no idea how people, have you ever seen some of these Facebook pages? They are extreme. I mean, we're talking like major hours involved in these things. I don't even have 5 minutes to even look at one. It's crazy. I generally don't do it, but I know I'm in it.
Dennis, why did you ask about security cameras?
Security cameras work off your network. So, and a lot of times, a lot of companies want usernames and passwords. Here's something I don't like. Apple Computer, this is a good thing. If I buy the Airport Extreme, I put a username and password in, set up on my local network, and give everyone here access to it. It's no big deal. Cisco, if I go buy one of the routers out of Best Buy or Office Depot or order one online, I can't set it up locally. They want me to have an account with them. It's cloud-based web administration, which means I have to have a username and account with them. I have to hook up to them, do all my administration through their server, which then throws it back to my device. Well, that means I have a middleman involved or a parent company involved. Why do I need Cisco involved? It's a local network. But this is what they're doing. Everybody wants to control your stuff because they want to know what else you're doing. And the video cameras are the same way. A lot of people go, well, hey, I have a doctor's office. I want all these rooms to be monitored. I want to be able to pull it up on my iPhone. Again, punching through a firewall, punching through a router. You got to get privileges. These things can be hacked because the first things to get hacked are the routers. So it's something to be scared about.
Dennis?
Yes.
Sort of a counter view. We're assuming that the risk is huge and that we should all be terribly protected. In fact, you presented that the risk is, given that we're in a Mac world, somewhat minimal. And, we give up a lot of stuff if we're not willing to use Facebook or whatever. So it just seems to me there's a presentation someday that should be made here that balances the need for security with what we give up.
Okay, that's true. The problem is that, like I said, there's no definitive answer. Like I said before about silver bullets, trying to do is balance. That's why I said it is a balancing act. The problem is, we're responsible for our side of things, right? But I don't know what Facebook's doing.
I know, but for example, there's a response, when I make an investment, all right, there's the risk I'm going to lose it.
That's true.
But I choose still to play in the game.
Right. Well, that's no risk. And Facebook's the same way. But you have to understand, people are funny. We like things that are free, and who doesn't? The problem is, I use the old adage from the Bible, Adam and Eve, you bit the apple because you want to know a little bit more. Well, that's just it. If you never bit the apple, what would it be? It's a what-if game. But I look at it as the same thing with Facebook. Once you kind of get a bite of that apple, you get to play in this great role. And believe me, Facebook, I think, is pretty cool. I'm not beating the guy up. It is very cool. I mean, in fact, you can find people can find you to reach out to your kids, especially if you have kids all over the country, around the world. Facebook has done some really cool things, okay? And so I appreciate what they've done. And it's great technology. The downside is there's other things going on behind the scenes. So that's a chance you take. Really, if anybody wants to know anything about any of us, I'm sure they can get it, right? And that's true. And there are things in place that things aren't that bad. If you lose money out of your bank account because someone stole your debit card, you can get it replaced and do some different things. But we have to be vigilant of our own stuff.
I'm agreeing. I'm just saying, life's a bunch of trade-offs. All of us could be very safe by not using email.
That's true. But nowadays we'll have to pay stuff online. Okay, we're almost out of time. How much time do we have? Done?
What?
How much time do we have left? 3 minutes? All right, let me just pick out a few things real fast. My PDF will come around. Just so you know, Apple, like I said, don't need antivirus. They already have safety built in. Jerry mentioned Gatekeeper, and this thing really keeps track of your system. And they update it behind the scenes, and Apple's been very good. What I like about Apple, it doesn't really slow down your system with their security. Okay, that Protect system works really well. And once again, know what you're putting in your computer. If you know where it's coming from, you shouldn't have any problems. File Vault, if you want to use it, it really works well until you encrypt your system. Whatever you do, don't lose the password because it can't be cracked. And I'm serious. Apple's got some privacy controls. Even there's a password generator in Safari with Maverick, so and also going to get better with the Yosemite coming up. iCloud has a keychain to keep track of your stuff, and you may want to do that. Some people like 1Password. I haven't tried iCloud keychain yet because I'm not really sure if I like that idea. So. Apple has a really cool feature. They sandbox malicious code. They detect something they don't like, they keep it in the sandboxes. So the rest of your yard's nice green grass, basically, in the sandboxes. So it keeps apps at bay so they can't sneak out and do other things. So they're very proactive.
Is that that's a downloadable app that's usable generically across all of your apps?
No, that's already built into the system.
But it's all built in?
It's all built in. There's another thing about other things run behind the scenes. Technical geek talk here, but it's runtime protections that work at the core behind the scenes for Apple. The biggest thing is phishing. So this is where I showed you this picture before where they try to extort money out of you. So just be careful. A lot of phishing schemes out there. There's many of them out there. Your Mac stays on alert, and if there's something goofy, it'll tell you. So I'm actually very happy with the product. If you lose your iPad, your iPhone, your iPod Touch, as long as the Find My iPhone feature has been enabled, people can get your device, but they can't override it unless they got your password to get it off their system. And Apple can't even get it, or won't give it up to anyone else either except you. You have to know it. Let's see. Basically, since no system's 100% safe, just make sure you control the access to your machine. Lock it if you have to. Take it away from somewhere with the laptop somewhere seals it. Apple's got something coming up soon called Apple Pay. And the way this works is pretty freaking phenomenal, but it's going to be probably the new way we're not going to carry money anymore. I got a feeling it's going to be using our phone to pay for it. It's a matter of time.
Dennis?
Yes.
Mitch? Somebody pointed out to me that there is a law, I haven't seen it, that effective October 15, 2015, they're changing around who's actually responsible for fraudulent activity. Right now it's the banks, but that law says it'll be the weakest link. And what that's going to do is force all these vendors to update all their equipment. And it comes at a timely time because they're going to update it, and they're probably going to update it. So
Stop this, yes.
And did you heard about that?
Yes, they had to anyway, but they've been working on it. They've had 3 years, I think, and they've been notified, but now they have a deadline where they have to actually be compliant or doing something to comply.
Okay.
Do not put antivirus on your system because it's not needed yet. One thing I will tell you real quick, there are other brands out there, you can put something on there. The thing is, what are you getting with those tools? What's it going to protect you against? We don't know what the bugs are yet. Bottom line is, though, that thing in the corner there, avoid MacKeeper. It's legal malware. It means you buy it, it lies about your system, it'll lock it down, the number pops up on screen, you call them, they log in, you're paying $400. They set the timer again, do it again a couple months later. Avoid that thing. It comes in with some downloads and some different things. So that's really kind of a scary thing.
Two things. George, as you know, has been recording this. He will send out a notice to the members on how to see it on YouTube. Second, Dennis has sent me a PDF copy of all of his slides. Sometime this week, I will get them onto our website, and I will send you out the link so that you can have your copy of, you can look at the PDF slides. It will go out through the discussion group. If you're not a member of the discussion group, you should be.
Sorry, there's a lot of information to be given, and I kind of feel bad I figured it all out to you because there's a lot of things to be worried about. Let me just, I'll take some questions real quick while I'm cleaning up. I want to put something up here. It's called FireEye.com. And you've heard about it, but they do a, all right, watch. This thing here is our global map as it occurs. This is servers with security built in, and they happen around the world. This is in real time as you're looking for today. These are the threats that are going on, and it tells you up top who's bumping who. So it's like new attack, France, United States to France, to Korea to Costa Rica. These are actual attacks going on while we're sitting here talking to you guys. This is real. This isn't the War Games movie. This is legit. No, this is not. It's not something to download. You can actually go to. It's called the webpage is called freeye.com. It's called the Cyber Threat Map. So things go on all the time while we're having a good time and drinking Starbucks coffee. But there's a lot of protection in place out there. But this is what goes on daily, even while we're just having our discussion.
Often I will get emails that have multiple people in the address.
Right.
I try to tell my friends, don't do that. Can somebody actually hack into my system through one of those addresses?
Not through your computer directly, but usually if you, example, get AOL and you have Yahoo or the free services Gmail, if they get hacked, they can get access to your
How
contacts.
about Hotmail?
Hotmail's the same thing, MSN just as bad. Now remember, if it's a Windows-based computer that your friends have, they get the virus or bug, it can take everything from their contacts and send it to everybody else. You won't get infected because you have an Apple, but anyone else has a PC will. Anybody else? Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about the hackers going out, the big fees like August, or what do you think about having an iCloud backup like practicing?
iCloud backups are, the cloud backups are fine except for one thing. We all have a lot of data now. The problem is we can get it up there, but getting it back in a timely fashion doesn't always work. I have a client who's got 800 gigs up at Carbonite for his architecture firm. It's going to take him 161 days to get all his data back. He's been stopped a couple times already. He can still access his data as he needs it in the meantime, but we can't get it back fast enough. We're actually going to pay to have them put the stuff on a hard drive to get it back to us in a timely manner. It's really sucky. It's a trade-off you get for unlimited. $50 a year is great, but you can't get it back when you need it.
A lot of medical centers and doctors now have programs where you can access your medical reports through the internet. How safe are they?
They're safe as just the same as the banking system. Most of this stuff is reliably safe. Again, you just never know when a breach is going to occur. Then we just got to deal with the aftermath when it occurs.
Is Ethernet any safer than wireless?
No, it still goes to a router of some sort. So that's usually where most of the infections are going to occur.
How safe is it to purchase things through using your credit card on your iPhone?
Again, if it's going through the cellular network, that's one way. If it's on Starbucks or McDonald's Wi-Fi, whole other issue. So just use user discretion at that point. If you're home on your own Wi-Fi, it's your system. Guide treat it at that point. But if you're someplace you're not sure of, think twice. Anybody else? Sorry, I was a lot. Thank you.